Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to unpack a really fascinating challenge. So we all know we live in a world that is totally driven by incredibly complex technology, specifically artificial intelligence. And let's be honest, it's a topic that can easily overwhelm adults, let alone young kids. But it begs the question, how do you actually take something as abstract and frankly mathematically dense as AI and make it digestible, safe, and even fun for early childhood education? Well, today we are going to look at a highly unique lesson plan that does exactly that. We'll be deconstructing an educational presentation designed to introduce AI to kids, just to see exactly how it uses character, design, and language to transform a pretty daunting subject into an inviting adventure.
Picture this for a second. You're sitting in a classroom, and the very first thing your teacher says is, "Hello, friends. Today we will learn about AI. AI is a smart tool that helps us. Meet Sparky. He will be our guide today." Instantly, the tone is just set, right? It's not a heavy lecture. It's an invitation. You're being greeted as a friend, you're told you're going to learn about a smart tool, and you're introduced to a personal guide. It completely disarms any anxiety right off the bat and puts you right in the shoes of an eager young learner who's just ready for a story. All right, let's dive into section 1, Meet Sparky the Robot, and how we frame AI for younger audiences. Notice how the core definition of the subject is handled here. When you or I think about artificial intelligence, we're probably picturing massive data centers, complex neural networks, or these super intimidating predictive algorithms. But this educational framework intentionally shifts that entire perspective. AI is defined specifically as a supportive educational tool and a helpful friend. It takes the massive concept of machine learning and shrinks it right down to the scale of a classroom helper. By establishing this specific definition right out of the gate, the curriculum effectively removes the intimidation factor altogether. It basically tells the student, hey, this isn't something that's going to replace you or confuse you. This is a companion that's actually here to support you. Moving right along to section 2, Designing a Welcoming Visual, where we'll look at the anatomy of the title slide. To really understand why this works so well, we have to look at the anatomy of the design itself. First up, the background. It isn't a stark white or an intense black. It's a bright, calm blue. And color psychology tells us that blue is incredibly soothing and non-threatening. Next, look at the typography. It uses a large, standard font. It's highly readable, meaning it leaves zero room for cognitive strain. The kids can just easily focus on the message. And finally, the character focus. A friendly robot named Sparky is waving right from the absolute center. Sparky is looking directly at the students, offering a literal physical gesture of greeting. Every single design choice here is deliberate, and they all work together to put the viewer entirely at ease. Because here's the thing, this welcoming visual design, it isn't just an aesthetic choice. It is actually a foundational pedagogical tool. By intentionally crafting an environment that feels familiar and gentle, the creators are completely tearing down those barriers to entry. The visuals themselves are doing half the heavy lifting before the lesson even officially begins. Which brings us to section 3, Using accessible language and simplifying those smart tools. This perfectly illustrates how language acts as the bridge between the child and the technology. Just look at the specific, carefully chosen copy used in the presentation text. AI is a helpful friend. How smart tools help us learn. Meet Sparky, your robot pal. You'll notice there is absolutely zero technical jargon here. They don't use the word algorithm. They don't mention data. Instead, they simplify the entire concept by using highly relatable phrases like robot pal and smart tools. It connects the vast unknown of artificial intelligence to the known, things like friends, tools, and learning. It tells the student exactly what the technology does, but in terms they literally use every single day on the playground. Let's look beyond the slide now, in section 4, an interactive teaching approach. The accompanying speaker notes for this lesson highlight a really specific pedagogical strategy. On the one hand, we have the traditional view of a new, highly technical topic, treating AI as a difficult subject. That usually implies a one-way street, where the teacher talks and the student just struggles to memorize the facts. But on the other hand, we have the explicit goal of this specific material, positioning AI strictly as a helpful companion. The speaker notes actively encourage an interactive approach. It becomes a conversation. By introducing Sparky as a guide, the lesson invites the students to participate, to ask questions, and to interact with the whole concept as if they're just interacting with a brand new classmate. And what's the end result of that interactive companionship? Well, the learning environment becomes incredibly safe and engaging. This is the absolute core takeaway of the curriculum. When children feel safe, their minds are wide open to exploring. By stripping away the fear of the unknown, and replacing it with a fun, engaging character like Sparky, educators are creating a secure sandbox. The students can poke, prod, and play with the concept of digital innovation without ever feeling like they might make a mistake or fail to understand some really difficult subject. And finally, we arrive at Section 5, building a positive foundation, which is the ultimate goal. If we bring all of these different elements together, that calm visual design, the highly accessible language, and the interactive companion-based pedagogy, we actually achieve the curriculum's ultimate goal. It establishes a positive foundation for students to explore digital innovation. Think about how much that actually matters for a second. The very first encounter a person has with a subject often dictates their relationship with it for the rest of their lives. By using Sparky the robot to make this initial introduction so incredibly positive, educators aren't just teaching a one-off lesson, they're actually shaping a lifelong, healthy, and confident relationship with the exact technology that's going to define these students' futures.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you all with a bit of a provocative thought. We've seen just how effectively Sparky the robot translates the massive, complex world of AI into a simple, helpful friend through really thoughtful design and structured language. And it works beautifully. So if we can successfully do this for artificial intelligence, what other complex, intimidating technologies could we completely demystify for the next generation using this exact same framework? Whether we're talking about biotechnology, quantum computing, or even global economics, the blueprint is right here. It's an absolutely exciting prospect and definitely something to chew on. Thanks so much for joining me. Keep asking those big questions, and I will catch you in the next explainer.